Hi, here we are together on another Thursday, Disruptive Conversations. So happy that you're here with me. If there's somebody that you want to let know to come on, take this moment, shout out to two of your friends and let them know that we're here. I'm seeing Alisha already. Man, she is on this. I see her that she has joined, and now I'm waiting for her request. And I'm seeing her request, so we can just get rolling here. Hang on. Let's see. I'm going to go live. Coming on. We are so prompt today. We're pretty awesome. Now, Alicia's a little bit, she's over the pond, as it is said. And hey,
we did it!
We did it. We did it. And what I'm going to be doing in just a moment, so that we can get right to it, because we've got so much to say. And Chino Mindy, hi, thanks
for coming. That's my mom.
The mamas, yay! I hope you had a great Mother's Day. Is that we've got so much going on. I'm going to introduce our show, me, and then I'm going to introduce you, because we've got a lot cooking today.
Great.
So. Yeah. So everyone, welcome to Disruptive Conversations with Dr. RISA RYGER, with entrepreneurs, educators, influencers, authors, thought leaders, in which we deep dive into the experiences these women have needed to navigate and conquer in order to achieve their personal and professional success. And as I mentioned, I'm Dr. RISA RYGER, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. I help people change at any point in your life. And now, in order to make positive change, you need to disrupt. You need to disrupt something in order to have positive change. You need to disrupt a thought, a belief, a feeling, a behavior, a habit, in order to create your 10.0 life. And that's what this series of conversations is all about. So I'm going to be introducing Alisha Fernandez Miranda. I have to read it because, again, amazing woman, amazing background. And she is the author of My What If Year. And if any of you have ever wondered, what if? And if you haven't wondered it, the time is now to wonder that. And she serves as the chair and former CEO of IG Advisors, an award-winning social impact intelligence agency. An intelligence agency, isn't that interesting? That consults with the world's biggest nonprofits, foundations, and corporations on their philanthropy and social activities. A graduate of Harvard University and the London School of Economics, her writing has been featured in Vogue, Business Insider, Romper, and Huffington Post. Originally from Miami, she currently lives in Scotland with her husband and 2 children and dog. Yes.
And dog may be snoring throughout this Instagram live.
Okay.
She likes to be in the room with me all the time, so.
Yeah. We could use a little more volume.
Okay. I gotta bring this closer to my face. How's that, better?
Yeah. Actually, yes.
Okay. Good.
So, Alisha, I've given you this introduction. Obviously, we're so happy to be here together doing this. And fast shout out to Zibby Owens, who put us together.
That's right.
And so what haven't I mentioned in your bio that you would like to let us know?
Whew. I mean, there's a lot. There was so much I had to write a whole book about it. But I think, when you do one of these things, when you do a bio, you're sort of covering these like moments in your life where you went to school, what you did for a job, and then you have to put in a nice little bit at the end about your hobbies. But maybe the thing to add is that I am a person who's still figuring it out like everyone else. I think I have had my what if year. I had an incredible experience. But I don't think that, you're an expert on change. So I'm sure you'll back me up here. It's not something that stops. I didn't just have the year and then everything was different. So I think I'm a person who's still taking it one day at a time, trying to still live the lessons that I learned throughout the year that I wrote my book about, and to be intentional about the choices that I make, and succeeding sometimes and not succeeding sometimes.
Gosh, that sounds just like life. So my question to you is, Alisha, what did you need to disrupt inside of yourself to help make this happen?
I think I kind of came to the what was the genesis of my what if year, this idea to leave my job as CEO and go take internships at all the jobs I wanted to do when I was a kid, from a place of desperation, unhappiness. I think there was something that was telling me that I was not in the right place anymore, that I needed to be doing something different, and a general feeling of not being satisfied, being unhappy, feeling very guilty about feeling unhappy.
Yes.
And this sort of waking up every day and not feeling like my life was calibrated the way I wanted it to be anymore. So it wasn't necessarily a push that happened from the outside. Nothing happened that meant I had to go and have this big disruption in my life. I didn't lose my job. I wasn't thankfully diagnosed with an illness. You know, there wasn't something that happened external to me and forced me to rethink everything. It was more of an internal feeling of, I'm not in the right place. I need to be somewhere else. And then trying to figure out what that was going to be.
Okay. So in the next moment, just a takeaway from this, because I think it's so important to highlight this. I am a psychologist, so here we have it. But what's so important to highlight here is that that things happen in two ways. Either there's something happening externally that we need to react and respond to, or there's something happening internally. And when there's something that happens internally, be paying attention to your insides and asking yourself that question, what is going on? What am I experiencing? What is going on inside of me? Is not a gratuitous question, that it's really, one, an enormously important question. And two, it's a question that if you're really going to have that look-see, that you need to have the courage. You need that there's something in you that's willing to have that courage to have that look.
I think you articulated that so beautifully. This is basically like a therapy session. Everyone on Instagram gets to watch me having a therapy session with Dr. RISA. This is perfect. But and I think that at the point at which I started to ask myself these questions, my twins they just turned about 8 years old, 7 or 8. And that was really important because I had spent the previous 8 years and then some time before that so hyper-focused on just kind of surviving every day. There was no time to listen to what I wanted, to ask myself those questions. There was a voice inside of me, but it was like overshadowed by all of the other things that were happening in my life. And I really wasn't able to sit down and pay attention to what it was I needed until my children were a little bit older, at school every day. And then I kind of had these quiet moments. And then when I started looking inside, I was like, oh, we got to do something about this.
That's, it's like we didn't rehearse this. This is just really how it's happening.
Yeah.
And some of the reasons why, people go into this whole mode of busy. And some of that busy is really what life looks like. Whether you have young children and, young children, especially when they're really young, there's only so much that you can do to tell them to wait. It's not part of it's just really not part of the script. But then when you do have the quiet moments, what is it that you're hearing? If you're willing to listen, when you have the quiet moment and you can give yourself or create a quiet moment, are you willing to listen to what is being communicated inside of you?
Absolutely. And, that was sort of how it happened. I had this quiet moment. These questions started popping up, but I will say, they were scary. Like I didn't just hear, oh, you should go and take all these internships. And I was like, okay, great. Let me just go ahead and do that. Thanks, inner voice, for the heads up. It was, I think that being in the position where I was, being someone who had a family, who had a husband and kids and a very big job and being responsible for a lot of people and things, hearing what I had to say and that not being, oh, you should just keep doing everything exactly the way you're doing it and change nothing. That was very, very scary. And it really took me some time, as you read about in the book, to get to a point where I was ready to actually take some action and not just listen and feel very upset about everything, but actually I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something about this.
That's great. And also the fact that, hey, listen, it's not necessarily like, oh, I have this realization and now I'm going to go and address it like head
Tally
on,
ho,
yeah,
exactly.
good to go. But that, there's, what we call approach avoidance. You get a little closer, you move farther away. You get a little closer, you move farther away. And there are iterations of getting there. And, of like sending out, finally sending out the one email, but just also note to community listening that one email really counts. That one email, pushing send on that one email really does count. Um, and that it's, so you send out the email, you get the response, you wait for the response, you see the response, you go, oh my God, I think I have to respond,
Absolutely.
And what was and you do such a great job of explaining your internal experience in doing this, but I wonder if you can share a little bit of that right now
Yeah.
with the community we have here today.
So once I had gotten over all of those emotional barriers, and so, if you haven't read the book yet, the idea was to go and take unpaid internships at all the jobs I wanted to do when I was a kid, the things I had dreamt about, the things I had written in my Dear Diary, I'm 10 years old and I really want to be a marine biologist, all of those things, kind of wanted to take this year and go back and explore them. And I was running my own business. I was CEO of the company at the time. So, here I was with this, very well padded resume with lots of impressive things on it, trying to ask people if they would take me on as an unpaid intern for a short period of time in a field I had no experience in or knew nothing about. So, I am a very, when I make up my mind about something, very, very good at just kind of plowing ahead with blinders on to make sure that I get it done. And so, I had sort of laid out all of these different fields that I was interested in working in, art and musical theater. And so I started contacting pretty much everybody I had ever met. You say one email, but actually I was sending out dozens of emails and waiting for a response, but not always getting one. Most people that I reached out to did not respond back to me. I wrote a dozen drafts of a cover letter, trying to explain what is this situation, like what am I trying to do, and please keep reading even though this doesn't seem like a very traditional request. And then I had to do a resume. I hadn't done a resume in like 10 years. So I had to go, and now everybody like graphic designs their resumes. They're fancy looking. People put a picture. It was like a lot, but I just kept going. I was doing this. I was emailing people, contacting people. Nobody was getting back to me. No opportunities were materializing. But there was something that was really pushing me forward to not stop, to keep moving ahead, to not give up. And when I felt like giving up, then I had my husband in my ear saying, no, 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 you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. So it was a lot of sitting in front of my computer, like typing and Google stalking people, and a lot of rejection, which prepared me very well for working as a writer. So that was great.
Who knew?
Exactly.
Who knew that was
Just setting myself up for a lifetime of
Yeah.
rejection. Exactly. It's been wonderful.
Such a great space. But the idea that, one, you're staying with it and that you're going into something that you don't know. And we hear about this all the time of people waiting until they feel they've developed this level of expertise. Well, if you're a beginner, you can't develop an expertise until you're a beginner. And you can't be a beginner until you're beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So for everyone listening today, your takeaway is like, what is something that you have wanted to be a beginner in? And as we're talking and we finish up today, think about what will be your beginning. What is the one thing you can do to start your beginning? Okay.
I love that because I realized as I was going through these internships that I had gotten to a point where I hadn't been a beginner in anything for a very long time. I had been making the safe choices, the ones that were where I felt most comfortable, where I felt like I was building up expertise. And I think the idea of starting over in something where you've got no experience, no connections, in a later stage of your life or career, unbelievably terrifying to people. And, there's a good reason why a lot of people don't do it. It is very scary. But I think one thing that I certainly came to realize, and I think is true for many people, I host a podcast called Quit Your Day Job. I've interviewed a lot of folks with a lot of different jobs, and many of them have changed careers at a later stage or in the middle of their life or even later. And the one thing that I've heard, and certainly what I experienced, is that all of these skills that you've been building up, all of this expertise you've been building, is going to serve you in your new beginning, as you say it. It is part of you. It is part of who you are and what you've experienced in your life. And so it's not really like you're starting from the very, very, very beginning. You have so much rich life experience, even if you're moving into a totally new industry or you're moving to a brand new place. You're bringing everything with you. It's all part of who you are. And so you're never really starting, from nothing. You might be at the beginning, but it's not zero.
Great. That's a great point. And in one of the comments here is that it's hard not to take rejection personally. And then the question, and that's a great question. However, that's not a stopper. And so one of the things that we can ask ourselves, and I want to get back to what you did for you, is to ask ourselves, like, well, if someone says no to me or somebody's not responding, and you can take that badly also and think, I'm not even worthy enough to get a response. Like, how is it, I go around, I'm a good person, I'm nice to people, I'm kind to animals, and I'm not even getting a response back. And so I think one of the questions, instead of taking it like, it can be like an arrow in the heart, but that then to also ask yourself, like, what is it about me that's on the line if I get a rejection from someone who doesn't know me? I'm making a request of them out of the blue. I'm asking something that they're probably scratching their heads about. And so how did you navigate and kind of deal with that in you?
I would be lying if I said that I didn't take rejection personally. I do.
Huh.
It is personal, especially, with absolutely anything that I did, with the fact that I was putting myself and my professional career out there and offering myself for free to all of these people,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to respond. That kind of hurts. Then you're writing a memoir that there's nothing more personal than a memoir. That is my whole life story on those pages. And then you're not hearing back from agents. You're not hearing back. It's, but I think that the way that I tend to deal with that is I make sure that I have enough options. There's enough tributaries flowing out of my river that I'm not just relying on one thing ever. I'm not just sitting there being like, I need this one person to write me back or my whole life is going to fall apart. Guess what? There's probably like 50 other people that do the same thing that person does. And, part of what I had to learn throughout having a what if year that happened in the middle of COVID, because of course this happened, my first internship, I flew out on February 29th, 2020. So, you can do the math and figure out what happened from there. And, I had to adapt. I had to adapt at every stage of the game. Either rejections were coming through or, I don't know, a global pandemic was shutting down my internship opportunities. And I had to have another direction that I could go in. And that is certainly something that I have learned throughout my career and through this what if year, which is that rejection is it might just be putting you off into a slightly different path or forcing you to look in a new direction. It's not just about, this is it, this is the end, and there's nowhere further to go. And yeah, it gets easier, I guess, the more rejection you get, to not take it so personally. But I do take it personally sometimes. I wish I was a person who did not. I'm not quite there yet, I think.
Well, I think that there's a lot to be said for feeling rejection and for, feeling it and being a sentient, a feelings person, where it can sting. And that this is the space, and for people that I work with, when they have that sting and they want to take, just like, I'm leaving the room, I'm leaving the house, I'm leaving my city. I'm going someplace else. I can't get far enough away from it. That that feeling it personally and having that sting, there's nothing, you're not doing anything wrong. And that's part of what makes you a sensitive person, a caring person, and all. It's what you do after you
Love
feel the
that.
sting, right? And and staying in the game. And that's one of the things I teach over and over and over again, is that it's not about getting rid of the sting necessarily. If
Right.
you sting, you sting. It's like,
Yeah.
what happens and what do you bring to it? What are the coping mechanisms? What do you tell yourself? How do you help yourself at that point?
I don't know a single person that has accomplished anything in any field that has not faced that sting of rejection. I think it's just part of life. It's part of the process. And the other way to look at it is that, if something hurts in that way, it means you put yourself out there. Isn't that a beautiful and brave thing to do, that you put yourself out there enough that something being rejected, yeah, it did hurt a little bit. That matters. It does matter.
It does matter. If it didn't matter, then you have to question yourself, like, how important is this really to me? How much of me, not necessarily like, am I worthy to exist in the world?
Yeah.
But it's not everything. And this is where I think, as we happen to be talking about it right now, this is where this can live also, that it's not everything to get that rejection, but it's also not nothing. And it doesn't have to be either
Yeah.
or. And either way, we have ways of what we say to ourselves, what we can do. And I was thinking about you and thinking about our time together this morning. I was doing outside morning meditation, sun's out
You
at least.
looked amazing. The sun was out. You had these really super cool sunglasses on, sending me a video. I'm like, yes, I hope this is the vibe of our IG Live. And I think we've succeeded, even though we're inside now.
Exactly. That's part of the beauty of it. But I want to share with you what I was thinking. And that I was thinking, like, isn't like you did this in a very big way. You did the what if, in a real big, life-changing, disrupting your schedule, disrupting your kids, your husband not knowing where the green beans are in the refrigerator, not knowing how to turn on a washing machine. I mean, it's not just, it's not just, no casting, no aspersions there. There's a lot that I don't know also. I mean, but we all have our growth plates. And that in big ways and also in small ways, every single day, if you keep yourself open to it, you will have your what if. If you keep yourself open, everything, don't you think so? Like, you'll have your what if. What if I return the phone call? What if I say no? What if I, whatever that is. And so I think that it's taking it from this macro way,
Yeah.
and really bringing it into the micro.
100%. And my year ended up being big and transformational and involving a lot of very grand changes, but that is not how it started out. It started out with me saying, I'm going to take 1 month for myself. I'm going to take 1 month. Now, 1 month is a long time. I was in a position where I could do that because I was running my own business. I wasn't, by the way, leaving my job. I was still answering emails. I was still telling clients, don't worry, you can call me anytime. Just ideally not during rehearsals, because I'm going to be an intern on this production. But, I wasn't really throwing everything out the window, but it was saying that for this 1 month, I'm going to put in the extra time and the extra effort, and I'm going to do these inconvenient things to have this one experience. I want to go be an intern on Broadway. It's my dream. I'm going to go do it. And what has subsequently followed is beyond my wildest expectations. Even the fact that I was able to do 4 internships during the year of COVID, the kinds of work that all of it, it was such a beautiful surprise, but it was unexpected. And it was not like I set out at the very beginning and I'm like, right, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take a whole year. I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move. I'm going to write a book. That's not how it started. It started out so small. And so I think that it's important to put yourself if you're at the beginning of that what if journey, yeah, every day can have what ifs, and who knows what they're going to end up turning into for you if you take that one small chance, if you leap at that one small opportunity, you do that one thing that scares you, you have no idea where it's going to take you. That's part of the exciting part.
And in addition to that, by the way, you're also, one of the things that's happening when you do that is that you're helping to teach your brain that it's okay to take the risk. My daughter just came on. Hi, sweetheart. And one of the things in our family, one of the family sayings that we have is that you never know, right?
Love it.
You never. But when you take this kind of when you take a risk, you're teaching your brain and you're teaching your body, because we have the embodied brain in us, and letting yourself know through experience that I've done this, I've tried this, and whether it worked out or whether it didn't, I have survived this.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps set you up for you're choosing to go into another what if, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So, our time, I knew it was going to be a blink, and in fact it is. I have another question I have more questions for you.
Okay.
The next question is, Alisha, fill us in. What's your next disruption?
Ooh. Well, I'm working on a novel. And it is very disruptive for my life because I find it very difficult to write a novel. It's hard work. And it takes place in the field of high-end philanthropy, which is where I have spent most of my career. And it's a space that I love, but I also think needs a challenge and a shakeup and maybe a disruption, if you might call it that. So that's what's going on for me right now. I'm still pushing myself to try new things and do new things and be okay with failing at things if I try them and they don't go well. So that's an everyday task for me, just making sure I keep to that. It's a lot of work.
and that failing isn't the finality. Remember how you're using your F words.
Yeah.
And that fail, even though it's a 4-letter F word, that failing does not have to be your finality.
Yeah.
So for us who have fallen in love with you and your journey,
thanks.
how do we continue finding you and following you?
Well, I would love you to buy my book if you haven't read it yet. It's called My What If Year, and it is available bookstores, paperback, hardcover, audio, Kindle, carrier, pigeon. I don't know. I think you can get it in every way. And I spend too much time on Instagram, so you can always find me just right here.
Okay. I want to send out several thank yous to Alisha. One is a personal thank you for being on the show, and also for supporting me as I'm in my book journey. And thanks everyone for joining us today on Disruptive Conversations. There will be more disruption going forward. And remember, please follow me, tell your friends. I drop information all the time that's helpful and useful to get through your days, to make your what if part of your life. And remember, positive change can happen at any point.
I love it. And really, your little, like these nuggets of wisdom that you put out there, I am loving following you on Instagram. So people should follow you too. And we have to take a cute selfie.
We have to take, okay, this is our selfie time. So we're just going to be here. I'm going.
Oh yeah, sorry everybody else on this call. We don't care anymore.
The hair's good. Oh, by the way, did you tell everybody what your earrings are?
Can you see that? So that one says Queen, and that one says Alisha. And they're my favorite earrings.
Yeah. It says it all. Okay, so let's do our thing. One more. Okay.
And a weird one. No, I'm just kidding. Love this. Love chatting with you. This was so fun.
To be continued. I'll get back to you in a couple of minutes.
Thank you for listening. Bye.